Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Matt Benson, and this is The Lion, the Lamb, and the Lawyer. Today we're going to talk about the relationship between Christianity and alcohol, the Bible and the bottle. This is one of those things that a lot of people struggle with. Some people struggle with it from an addiction standpoint. Alcoholism is a very real thing that affects a lot of people, but there are other people who aren't addicted but struggle with it theologically. There are several Protestant denominations that prohibit the ingestion of alcohol altogether, but I don't think you can make a credible theological argument that booze is verboten. The point of Christianity, at least as I understand it, is to act like Christ, and the reality, whether you like it or not, is that Jesus drank. In fact, the first miracle that Jesus ever performed was to turn water into wine, and it's not like this is some unambiguous case. Jesus was at a wedding, they ran out of booze, and his mother walked up to him and asked him to take care of the problem. Jesus had the servants fill some pots up with water, turn the water into wine, and the party continued. Jesus' first miracle was essentially a supernatural beer run. In Luke 7, Jesus talks about drinking and how people accused him of being a drunk. There are people in the Bible who abstain from alcohol, like Samson and John the Baptist, but Jesus wasn't one of them. And portraying him as a teetotaler is both misleading and unrealistic. With that said, any good thing can be a bad thing if you abuse it, and there are a fair number of people who abuse alcohol. So what I think the most constructive thing to do is to come up with some guidelines that will put you in a position where you can have a positive relationship with Christ and a positive relationship with alcohol. We're going to start by saying you shouldn't drink in excess. If you're drinking until you're throwing up, passing out, or blacking out, then that's obviously excessive. It's okay to get a little bit of a buzz, but you need to avoid getting flat out drunk, because when you get drunk you tend to make bad decisions, which could hurt yourself or somebody else. Next, don't drink around alcoholics. There are people you know who can't just have one or two beers or one or two glasses of wine. Now, whether those people call themselves alcoholics or not, if you've got a friend who doesn't know how or when to stop drinking, then don't drink around those people. The Apostle Paul talks about not causing your brother to stumble in Romans, and if you've got a friend who struggles with alcohol, then you don't need to make that struggle any more difficult. Further, and this should be obvious, don't drink if you're an alcoholic. If you find that every time you drink you either make yourself sick or you make bad decisions, then you need to evaluate whether drinking is a good idea for you at all. It doesn't mean you're weak or anything like that, but if you know that this is an area where you're susceptible, then it's an area where you need to stay away from. And if you reach the end of the evening and you can't remember how many drinks you had, then it's time to start wondering if you're the kind of person who can drink or not. If you can't drink without wanting to get drunk, then you probably shouldn't start drinking in the first place. While we're on the subject, don't drink to escape. If you've got something in your life that you want to run away from, then you need to meditate or exercise or pray or do something to release the pressure you're feeling. But what you don't need to do is drown your sorrows in alcohol. Reason being, if you're drinking to get away from something, you're more likely to get yourself drunk and you're more likely to make bad choices as a result. Finally, don't drink when you're going to drive, operate machinery, or go to work. Even if you're not drunk, alcohol has a negative effect on your judgment and reflexes, and if you're going to be in a position of responsibility, then that's not something you're going to want. So, to review, regardless of what anybody says, it's hard to read the accounts of Jesus' life and come away with the idea that he prohibited the consumption of alcohol. But, like anything else, alcohol is something that becomes destructive if you abuse it. There are a couple of things you can do to avoid abusing alcohol. Don't drink excessively. Don't drink around alcoholics. Don't drink if you're the kind of person who can't drink without getting drunk. Don't drink to escape. And don't drink if you're going to be in a position of responsibility. If you can consume alcohol without abusing it, then you're using it the way God intended it to be used. Before I go, I want to remind you of the two big rules of Christianity. Love God with all you are and love your neighbor as yourself. If you're wondering if you should do something or not, using those two rules as a guide is a pretty good start. And if you can't remember those two rules, then you might have had too much to drink. I started this project because if we don't know why we believe, we don't really know what we believe. If you like this video, please consider sharing it with your friends. You can find The Lion, the Lamb, and the Lawyer on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We try to put out a new video once a week. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I hope you got something out of it.